What's going on, everybody out there all across the land? You are tuned in to the number one station on the net, Hotline Radio. This is the Keith Harris Show, and I am your guy, Keith Harris. And we're excited, very excited to have this gentleman on the phone with us tonight. He's groundbreaking. He's doing things monumental, and he has not just begun doing that. He's been doing it for a while. Without any further ado, I'd like to roll out the special red carpet and give a warm welcome to writer, producer, and actor Charles Agron. How you doing, Charles?
I'm doing fantastic, Keith. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. Look, it's an honor to have you. I'm glad you took time to join us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to, and I'm excited.
Yeah. Look, it's like because you're on the West Coast, right, Charles?
I sure am. I'm in Los Angeles, California.
Indeed. Were you born in California? For all the listeners out there that may be wondering where you're from.
Yeah, I was born in L.A. and I was raised in Santa Barbara, just up the coast. So I guess I'm a bit of a beach boy at heart.
That's what I was going to say. You've been enjoying the good weather the whole time, then.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I don't have any complaints.
Right. I know that's right. So look, you didn't. We'll jump into how you got into the entertainment industry, but you were on a different path at the beginning too. You were a pre-med student, right?
Yeah, in fact, I was actually a pre-med and pre-law major. I actually did pre-law at UC Santa Barbara, and I did pre-med over at UCLA.
Okay, and so. Look, doing law, and I guess that's a question that people. It's an obvious answer to that question, but I'm going to ask for the listeners anyway. How was it trying to juggle med school and law school at the same time?
Well, I'll tell you this. I actually did one and then the other, so it wasn't as much of a juggle as it might sound. Although I was in college for about 5.5 years.
Wow. So, well, look, I tell you what, though, even though they weren't at the same time, when you talk about doing one after the other, did you go from one directly into the other? Did you try to take a break between that time, or?
Well, I'll tell you this. I've always been very motivated, and it's funny is that I growing up, my dad is a doctor, my mom was an attorney, and I was getting the perennial kind of getting pulled in each direction, and wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. And, got all this education, but at the end of the day, I love the arts. And, I did something crazy. I decided to check out the East Coast and kind of take a break from both. And I got involved in politics in Washington, D.C.
Hey, big shouts out to D.C. That's the home front where I was born and raised, as a matter of fact.
Oh, fantastic. I love D.C. I lived in Georgetown myself.
Oh, Georgetown. Look, Charles, that was my hangout spot for those who don't know.
Yeah, Georgetown is a very, very cool town. A very cool town.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, that's a great place for everybody out there listening. When you head there, Georgetown is a place to go shopping. Of course, you got all the shops and there was a house. There's a house too that I think it was the Exorcist house too. When I was a kid, we used to go play on those long, tall steps.
Yes, exactly. I remember them very well. And the funny thing is when you're driving on the Key Bridge into Georgetown, you can see them. Uh-huh. And most people, I don't think most people know it's from The Exorcist. But if at late at night, those are some scary looking steps. Regardless. Well,
I tell you, they sure are. I could tell some stories about those, but that's another episode.
I got you. Fair enough.
Right. But so what was it like for you, your foot into the industry? What made you decide to make the transition into entertainment?
Well, back in LA, I had a family friend named Elaine Young, and she was married to Gig Young, who was a very famous actor, back in the day.
Right.
She was an outstanding person. She was actually the original real estate agent for the Stars.
Uh-huh.
And wow. Hollywood was her everyday. And she knew I was sort of in transition, and she kept saying to me, you need to get into the industry, told me that she thought I'd be perfect for it. Because, I love the art. And, ultimately, while I was working in D.C., I would actually, she got me into a program to act over at 20th Century Fox.
Oh,
and
wow.
I would, while I was working in D.C., I would, fly out and practice my trade and try to hone in my craft in terms of acting. So
Okay, now, so how was it? Look, that must have been interesting for you. I mean, people could only listen. A lot of people could just feel luckily, or I guess, can only dream of just jumping into being able to go to do work at 20th Century Fox like that. You just dive right into the pool, didn't you?
Well, I'll tell you this. I was training in, they had an acting program there actually on the lot, and it was actually pretty amazing to be, so close. Because, I remember seeing some of the, the actors and directors kind of coming in and out, and seeing a live set on the studio. It's tremendous. There's so much excitement. There's, people coming in, coming out. They're bringing in prop cars. It really sort of gets your, your veins burning because you want to get involved when you're, really that close. And it really makes you want to train hard and sort of, get to where they're at.
Right. Yeah, it's inspirational. I know my first time just doing background acting on the set, and I think I didn't do anything but walk down the street past the camera, and after that it was just on for me. Like, I just love, like you say, just watching the mechanics of everything that's going on. If it's something that you want to do from that point, you never look back.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you said that because, I tell people that being on a live set, it's a feeling that you cannot describe to anybody unless you felt it, and you just want to feel it again. It really is something.
Mm-hmm. Now, as a writer, okay, because listen, you're not just doing the acting, you're doing it's all difficult, and you're a master at your craft. But listen, when we start talking about writing and even producing can be, sometimes I'm assuming that can be the headache part. But writing for you, how did you begin writing? How did you come up with your ideas sometimes?
It's a tough answer to that because really, it's like life gives me my ideas. Mm-hmm. I come up with sort of ideas, and typically when I write, I come up with like kind of a general idea of what I want the story to be about.
Right.
And then I sort of develop the characters after the fact. But I've noticed compared to some of my friends, I have a very unusual writing style in that it's like I'm constantly working on ideas in my head.
Right.
And that by the time it comes time to write, I'm actually a very fast writer.
Oh.
So kind of interesting. It's almost like I got the dialogue, already kind of created, and all the blueprints there. I just have to sort of sit down and knock it out, so to speak.
Right. This might be a silly question to ask a writer, but do you, when these ideas come to you sometimes ahead of time, because you may be out working or doing something else or on set and another idea may come to you. Do you ever worry about when you get home or when you get chance to sit down and write that some of these ideas may have gone away, or you've got to kind of try to think them back? Or
definitely, that's actually a very good question. Really, another thing that really influences me is music.
Oh.
And really, when I'm trying to come up with certain ideas, if I'm working on a certain genre, I will listen to different music,
mm-hmm.
and it will affect me differently. In a situation where I'm trying to do say like a love scene, or when I did Dark House, which is a horror. I listened to a whole different set of music, but it's amazing how if you kind of step away from one and fully focus on the other, some of the ideas you had start to dull. So you kind of have to be very careful and make sure that you write them down or kind of set that blueprint down, because I've certainly had it before where some of the stuff it's definitely not as fresh, and
mm-hmm.
even some scenes that I thought were that I had strong in my head, I had to spend a little more time on just because I wasn't able to write that down, or just sometimes those ideas fade. So
right.
I think that's certainly a very good question.
Yeah, I look to kind of back up what you're saying. I know I used to have times where I could be trying to do homework and talking on the phone, and before I know it, I done wrote what I was talking about on the phone on my homework assignment.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. All of a sudden, my horror film becomes like a political drama. I'm like, oh no, I got to spend a couple more hours on this.
Right. When do you? How do you know? How do you know yourself? Like, what's your own personal way that you tell yourself when you're satisfied? Like, when do you throw the pen down and say, okay, this is it. This is perfect. This is what I was trying to, this was the vision I was trying to give the viewers. How do you know when you've reached that point?
Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. You will never feel fully satisfied. You'll always feel like you could have changed the dialogue a little bit here, a little bit there. You're always thinking, wonder if I had done that. Because that's another big thing is sort of like the what ifs. Even if it looks fantastic, you kind of wonder, well, wonder if I kind of attacked it from a different direction. Right. Really, what you got to do is you got to, get the script where it hits on all the high points where it needs to and where you want it to. But sort of that wonderment is always there. Could I have done this a little different? Would it have worked differently? So really, I mean, it's always a work in progress. And then with myself, in which I produce the films, when we get into the edit bay, it's sort of like the same idea. Like, wonder if we go in this way, what do you think the audience is going to think? Or, so at the end of the day, you're never fully satisfied. So you really have to leave it up to the, the audience to let you know if you did a good job or not.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying. You just, like you say, you just kind of you kind of stick with those high points where, those levels where that, when the scene hits you it's good, and then everything else you wish for the best. Like, it's good. You don't go on really a wing and a prayer because you trust your work, but at the same time, as you say, it's you kind of wait for the reactions. Now, do you? Okay, because you've had one of your projects in the film festival also. Did you attend that film festival?
The first one I did was I live in LA. We went to a comedy festival in Los Angeles, and really that was my first attempt to really get something in front of the audience to see how they sort of reacted. And it was a smaller project, but we worked very hard on it, and it did get a little bit of legs behind it. And I love comedy. I have a very dark kind of sense of humor. But at that point, I was so focused on my featured film that I sort of put that in sort of on the back burner. And, the funny thing is that even today, I still think about that because I have a lot of ideas sort of in that comedy realm. But, I wanted to be making movies. And so that's sort of what I set out to do.
Right. Well, and brings me to a question. Do you ever notice, or is there? Do you notice that do the scales weigh out, or do they tip a little? Do you notice that people draw towards, or which do you think people draw, closely more towards, horror or comedy these days? Or is it hard to tell?
Yeah, that's hard. That's really hard to tell because it's like each sort of genre has their fan base. And, that fan base, to the very end, I'm telling you, like the horror fan base, I mean, those people will tell you there's nothing better than those films. Yeah. And as opposed to comedy people, those, it's just like completely opposite. People who will like, typical comedies will say something like, oh, I don't like scary movies. Right. So it's really tough. Sometimes I actually like to kind of play with the idea of doing some projects that sort of kind of mix genres, but really it is tough to which is sort of king.
Yeah, I go through that too. We normally try to watch we at least try to take in one film, and we always end up watching two. Sure. But and we do this every night. After the show and after things have settled down. And it seems like as soon as I hit the genre section, before I do it, I'm thinking about what am I going to watch. But I always end up going to horror.
Yeah. See, I'll tell you, there's something about watching a scary movie. I mean, it's always fun. You know, that's one of the reasons why I love the genre. I grew up watching Stephen King and the Rod Serling series. It really is a fantastic ability to get people scared. To really to get to their core, make you not want to turn the lights off. And the funny thing is I was just talking to a friend the other day when I was little. Somebody, I think I was in second grade. Somebody was had a family member who was involved in the Child's Play movies, and one day they decided to screen Child's Play for us. And this is a true story. And to this day, my friend would say that he's got PTSD. He can't look at the little doll will scare him to death.
Right.
And it really is amazing how some of these movies can just shape us. It really is amazing.
You know what? He. I don't know about you, but he's not alone because Charles. Mine's is Ghostbuster, Charles.
Yeah, Ghostbusters. Tell me, they're remaking Ghostbusters right now.
Oh, what? Okay. Well,
they sure are. So you better get under that bed right now.
I know, right? Look, I never could get over that goblin. That's what.
Yeah.
That's what. But it's like you say though. It's just amazing how these how these films they shape us. Just the stories and sometimes the legends. They tend to carry on inside our minds, and I think it's because horror will always be. Horror has has such a wide range that it will always be a genre that will have certain sections that we would just never be able to touch on just in our everyday lives. I mean, it takes us so far away from reality sometimes that,
right.
And I think that's what does it to us.
Well, I'll tell you this: what I love about the horror genre is that really the fan base. I mean, they're extremely loyal. But they really do give an artist such as myself, an opportunity to take chances because really it's a different realm that you're able to dip into without that sort of a judgment. Like they want to see, what can you come up with for scares and what kind of interesting stories,
right.
Sort of from a different realm, and you really can get creative,
right.
And it's just a lot of fun. It's just a lot of fun to do that. And another thing for me, I like to kind of physiologically change people. I like to make them, feel fear as opposed to a quick boo.
Yeah, I was, and I was reading that, as a matter of fact, and I wanted to ask. I'm glad you went there because I definitely wanted to talk about that. Like, so you really like to get inside the minds. Like, you don't just want people to look at it and just take it for only face value. You really want them to stop and you want them to shiver.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's funny. It's like when you kind of go back to the idea of the sort of the ideas about writing with Dark House. I like to play with sort of ideas that people have kind of come to think about, but kind of don't put a lot of importance into. And what I mean is everybody, for instance, talks about fate.
Right.
And everybody looks at fate as being something positive. Everybody, it's fate. Everybody, fate is going to be good, and nobody really thinks about the idea of fate.
Right.
So for me, I thought, wonder if you were a very good person, but your fate was something bad.
And that's that. Look, Charles, that's a human fear every day.
Right. Exactly. And yet, everybody thinks of fate as being a positive, just off the cuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just interesting to me. And in Dark House, the lead character that I created, Nick DeSanto, he's got these abilities that he doesn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And his whole life he wants to know why he's like that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe sometimes it's best we don't know why. Is sort of what I wanted to, sort of the message of the film.
And we don't, and that's true. People want to know, but they don't. And so I'm glad we're talking about Dark House because I was holding out, Charles, and we were keeping the people in suspense for a while. But let's talk about Dark House and what what the plot was and what, kind of what you were trying to do with Dark House without giving too much away, because we definitely want people to have to go check it out.
Sure. Well, Dark House is, my first feature film, and, I was very lucky that it was released theatrically, and, but, people enjoyed it, and it was my first attempt, at a scary film, and, the director, Victor Salva, who did the Jeepers Creepers series, got involved because he liked my script.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see Dark House, you'll notice that sort of it feels like a kind of a combination of his style and my style. But really, what I wanted to do is I wanted to play with that idea of fate.
Right.
And Nick's got these abilities that he doesn't understand. He can see how people die, and he goes on this quest to find out about himself, and he wants to find out. He's never met his father. He wants to find out who his father was, and he comes face to face with a moment in which his mother died, and he inherits a home that he didn't even know exists.
Right.
Now, what's so strange about that home is that he had been seeing visions of it as a child. So he didn't know it existed in the real world, and then he inherits it. So
You mean
he goes
the
on
house?
this adventure to find out what this was, who he is, and he's met with a lot of resistance because people don't want him to find out what's behind this house. So kind of an interesting twist on the scary house idea.
Oh.
Very trying to do it in a different style, so to speak.
Right. Now, I'm assuming that these people who don't want him to find out about this house, if you can't find, are these people living or dead?
Well, the thing is it's a scary film. So I guess at the end of the day, you really don't really know if they are alive or dead, but they are alive. They are alive.
Okay.
You know how it is.
Yeah, I do.
You never know. But I will let the cat out of the bag. They are alive.
Okay. Well, you know what? There you go. And that's also another. See, just that right there lets people know that. Wait a minute. How you definitely put that twist to it, because I, like a lot of people, probably would have expected. We thought you were going to say that they were dead, because listen, when you talk about horror, everybody's thinking about a ghost coming back. Everybody's, you know what I mean? Sometimes they think about blood and guts, but so wow. How long did it take did you guys take a long time to film it, or?
Oh gosh, we actually filmed down in Mississippi, and we were there. I think actual photography was about 5 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that.
Okay. All right. Now, also, a suspense. I'm thinking this is a suspense thriller, if I read correctly. Monday at 11:01 a.m. Something must have happened, Charles.
What was your first guess on that one?
Okay, let me think, because I did try. Okay, let me see. Monday at 11:01, the first thing came to my mind is that, I don't know, somebody, broke into a house at 11:01, and things just started going bad. The end of the world didn't cross my mind. That didn't really hit me. A car accident didn't really hit me. For some reason, what I thought is that probably 11:01, I don't know, somebody came in the house, things just went wrong from that point. How close or how far am I?
Well, I'll tell you this. You're kind of far, but that's okay. I mean, that's sort of the purpose of the title. I had somebody ask me, hey, why didn't you call it, Tuesday at 5:42 p.m. And I said, well, I could have. And so I'm going to give you the writer's answer to Monday at 11:01 a.m. Versus the producer's answer to Monday at 11:01 a.m.
What was it?
As a writer, I took this idea of people's moments in their lives. People are constantly thinking, I can't wait till the day's over. I can't wait till it's Friday. I can't wait for this. I can't wait. In another hour, my show's on, and people tend to waste time, and they don't realize that it's the moments of their day. It's all those little moments that make up your entire life.
Right.
the genesis of that idea for the title.
You know what? I probably am way off. Now I think about it because it is Monday, and I tell you what, I feel crazy now, Charles, because it is Monday at 11:01. It's not 11:01 p.m. It's 11:01 a.m. on a Monday.
Right.
And a lot of people are going to work at that time of day, or people are having early lunches at that time, and different things of that nature. So really, that opens the door for it to be a lot more going on than just thinking, hey, because when you think of somebody breaking in a house, you're thinking of nighttime a lot of times, especially if you're home. You know what I mean? So yeah, I can see. So that really means a lot of different things could be going on at that time. I mean, somebody could have got fired. There's a lot of different ways that could go.
Right. Well, I'll tell you now. I'll tell you the producer's answer to what Monday is about.
Okay.
Monday at 11:01 a.m. is about a man named Michael who takes his lovely girlfriend Jenny to a resort town. They're trying to get away.
Mm-hmm.
He's a self-made man, but wants to pamper his girlfriend. Go up to a beautiful mountain town and decide to stay the night.
Right.
And as many of us do.
Right.
Well, that night, something happens that makes Michael very scared. And he wants to leave more than anything else the next day.
Oh,
okay. As they're checking out, he's told that there's only one way in and out of this little mountain resort. And there's been a major accident near the tunnel. And he won't be able to leave for a couple days.
Oh, no.
So this town is really hustling, bustling, resort town. I guess there's worse things to be, stuck in this type of this area. So,
except for what happened the night before, I guess.
Right, except for what happened the night before.
Right.
So I'll tell you. So he, needs a little bit of a alone time because he's not getting along with the hotel staff at all.
Uh-huh.
And he's starting to realize that even though that tunnel's blocked, there's a lot less people in the town.
Oh.
So goes back to the hotel and kind of hunkers down.
Uh-huh.
And that night, something else scary happened.
Oh man, he just cannot get right. Okay.
Next day, he's the only person left in this town, other than the people that work in the hotel and the bartender.
What? Now, was it like that when he woke? So did he go to bed and wake up and everybody was gone? Or, dang, God, never mind. I don't want you to tell all that.
I know. I just want to tell you everything, but I got to leave. I got to leave a couple of things a secret. But
right.
Really, this is sort of my next level of scares, and it's really sort of my style that playing with the psyche and trying to get into your head,
right.
Like you were saying earlier.
And I tell you, it's crazy because so now he you don't have to come in about it, but I'm thinking to myself, I'm just kind of painting this picture in my mind, and I'm sure everybody out there can come up with their own thoughts too. But the guy goes to bed. He already wants to leave. He goes to bed. He wakes up. Nobody's there but him. At that point, I just gotta kind of wonder if the traffic jam is still there. Does he feel there's that psychological misconception that maybe because there's less people there, he might be a little more happier because he's not as disturbed. But then there's also that frightening element because why is everybody gone? And then there's that side of him that says, well, at least I'm still here. So what does that mean? Because that could be a good thing or bad thing, right, Charles, that he got left.
Well, really what I want to do is just play with this idea of, are people genuinely after him or is he going crazy? So that's another kind of level of drama that I'm trying to create as well.
Okay. Well, Monday at 11:01, I'll be thinking. Look, I wish it was Sunday night right now, Charles, because I'd be looking for tomorrow at 11:01 just to see.
Fair enough. Well, I'll tell you, it's a really good film. Just took another look at it, I mean, it looks great. We've got a fantastic cast. We've got Brienne Evigan from the Step Up series. We've got Lance Henriksen, who's doing his thing on the Blacklist, and has been in 200 movies.
Oh wow!
Really, really, really well acted, and I think that I think we're gonna scare at the right time and intrigue at others. So I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Right now, what's your what is your position on Monday at 11:01? Are you acting, producing, and writing as well, or what do you?
Well, I'll tell you, I wrote it,
Okay,
I produced it, and I also starred it.
hey, I guess that's one of the good things about writing your own movies, I suppose, too.
Yeah, I guess it's a perk. It's a perk for having to sit there and write up 100, 105 pages.
Oh yeah, I know, right? Yeah, and look, that's the least you could do for all the work you put in, I'm assuming.
Well, listen, I agree.
Right. Now, have you got to the point yet? And listen, obviously, congratulations on your success so far and all you've done. And I know, look, the future's just you so much ahead of you. But have you already been able to kind of write yourself in, because everybody has, well, most people do, they have that one favorite character or that one type of character that they have always wanted to play or that they could always see themselves being. Have you been able to write yourself because I normally would ask people, you're a writer, so I have to ask you a bit different. I normally ask actors or actresses, what type of character would you want to play? Or I say, if you could write yourself in, what type of character who would be your favorite? What's the answer to that question for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I never really thought of it that way, but I like to play I like to play powerful, intelligent characters.
Yep.
And I've never thought of it really in that sort of way that you just put it as, what kind of character do I want to play? But that's what I like.
Mm-hmm.
And as I write, that's sort of what I tend to try to create.
Right. You know what? I tell you, different people. When you're on the screen, you're playing a role. When people are off the screen, they're themselves. But sometimes you can still see what their favorite character would very likely be. And in talking to so many people in the industry, I think I'm the psychic of trying to figure stuff like that out, right?
Yeah,
but
sure.
But I can see that though. Like just looking at you, even in your normal shots when you're off camera and things like that, I could see you playing a powerful, intelligent character. You know what I mean?
Well, very cool, and thank you.
Yeah, because you got that clean cut, powerful kind of guy. Like you probably could go the banker route, the Wall Street kind of guy route, or just a tycoon kind of route with the intelligence though. Not so much as the murderer kind of intelligent, powerful person, but maybe the guy who invests all the money. Like let's say if you were playing a villain, I could see you being the guy who is putting the money behind the plans type situation and the brains behind everything. Really mischievous kind of.
Well, once again, it's like it's interesting that you say that because I sort of like to play with the ideas of kind of making a character look like one thing. Another thing that fascinates me is that people see somebody and they expect them to be a certain type, but I think that people change day to day. Just like you said, if somebody plays a character, but when they're away, they're their normal self. Mm-hmm. That's another thing that I like to instill in my characters is sort of that change in personality that a lot of us do. We act differently socially or out in an event as opposed to when we're just kind of hanging out with our friends, watching a football game, something like that. And so it's interesting to me, like the idea of having a real say powerful, intelligent person who's the head of a kind of a bad organization or some type of criminal organization. I love that type of duo type of personality.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Now, before we get ready to go, what advice would you have for people coming up? I know there's always that general advice, which is just work hard.
Sure.
But do you have any particular things, just even if it touches on some things that you had to face? Because listen, I know, listen, you're good at what you do, but I'm sure it was no cakewalk. We all have our days where we're like, listen, I'm tired. I know I got to keep going, but I'm frustrated. What advice would you give to people that are trying to kind of get where you are?
Well, I'll tell you this, from sort of my days in the industry, the first thing I realized is that everybody is always trying to knock you down.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever trying to help you up.
Mm-hmm.
And really, people need to be careful, who they trust, because you might be doing a great job, and people are going to try to make you insecure just because of whatever they've got going on. So really, you have to put the blinders up. Whatever it is, as a writer, as a producer, as an actor, and you gotta have that self confidence, because like I said, I remember going in way back when I did some commercial work.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go in there and I'd be talking to a casting director, an assistant casting director that clearly didn't know what they're doing, and they're power tripping, trying to tear everybody down.
Right.
And if you don't have a strong will, that stays with you. I've seen people get really upset leaving out of an audition, and it's just, I don't know. I think that's not fair, and I think that people really have to be ready for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other piece of advice is that in this town, a lot of people come to LA and they want to be actors, and I noticed that they kind of get stuck, trying to network and kind of go around in circles.
Uh-huh.
without progress. I talked to somebody who is been in an acting class for 4 or 5 years and still isn't going out on auditions. And really, you got to get out there, because if you're an intelligent person, if you're a good actor, I mean, you'll get work. But you got to kind of put yourself out there. Maybe that sort of goes into that first idea, that you got to be ready to put up those blinders and sort of jump in and sort of see what happens. And sometimes if you're jumping into a pool, sometimes that water's not as cold as you might think it is. So
yeah, absolutely.
Just taking it from somebody, I've seen a lot of interesting things. I mean, once Dark House went out there, I was getting all kinds of critics were coming out from all over the place, and when people love my project, it makes me feel outstanding. And sometimes they don't love it as much as another person. And somebody asked me, how does that make you feel? And I said, if somebody's judging my art,
mm-hmm.
I couldn't be in a better position.
Yeah. Because it's there for them, because it means that they're paying attention to it. You're you're being seen, and right. And again, and this is definitely one of those business too that a lot of people will give the advice of follow your dream, obviously. And as you said, Charles, don't let people out there listen. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. If you work hard, you stay focused, you can do it. But there are still disciplines that you have to maintain in order to do it. You can't just be the type of person that just thinks, hey, I can do this, I'm gonna do this, and think that it just happens. There are certain disciplines, there's rules, there's a regimen, and there are steps that you're gonna have to follow. And just as you touched on with the auditions, also, people out there listen, don't take those auditions personal. When you don't get it, it's not personal. It just means you have to move on and continue on until your number is called. It goes with the territory.
Right, without question. And I'll tell you something. I've seen a lot of really good actors not get a role, and you kind of wonder why not. But those people, and I'm talking about people that have been in a lot of movies. I mean, a lot of movies. And you know what? They just keep going because they know that they can land something else. But one thing that you sort of just said was that, the idea of the regiment of, kind of having that never say die attitude. I mean, really, you can tell the people who are going to get places, and they're typically people who are very motivated and they work really hard and they're continuing, trying to make their craft better. They're always trying to make themselves better. Mm-hmm. And so, just those, you can, I mean, really, there's certain types that right. that will do well. So, no, it doesn't matter if it's acting or writing or producing.
And you are right. You are right, Charles. You can really kind of look and tell, and especially with somebody like yourself, you have experience in this game. You have an eye for it, so you definitely know. Listen, once again, Charles. Listen, I want to thank you. I want to send a special thanks to you. Congratulations on all your success, and of course, we wish you much more success. Listen, how can people follow you on social media? Do you have any social media handles?
Well, I'll tell you, my Twitter is Agron Producer. Literally, we're about to roll out an entire web portal, and if you look for Monday at 11:01 a.m. with Charles Agron Productions, you'll find us. Okay. And I think that people are going to be very, very excited about Monday at 11:01 a.m. And it'd be great for them to check out our house as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I asked that because I wasn't stalking, but I knew we were doing the show, and I was like, Charles is not on social media too heavy, and and I don't really, listen, I'm just really, I'm a social media, I'm just a Facebook kind of guy. I try to put up the posts, keep people in tune with what's going on. I'm not savvy on Twitter. I never do Instagram. You know what I mean? So,
right.
So yeah, I understood where you're coming from. But listen, what are there any? Listen, what dates before we get out of here? Is it 2015 or 2016? What should we look for? What do you want the people to look for next to be paying attention to?
I'll tell you this. It looks like we haven't made an announcement yet, but it's looking like Monday's going to be in theaters at the end of this year.
Nice.
And then from there, I've got a couple projects that I'm working on. I got a World War II drama, and I also have a sort of an organized crime drama, I guess is the best way to call it as well.
Wow.
So I actually thought the World War II film was going to be my next project, but it looks like I have some people interested in doing the other one, so it looks like that might be flip-flop. But either way, I promise I'm going to do my very best to give the audience a film worth watching.
I know you will. Organized crime is always, everybody's looking for that one. So.
Exactly. Listen, it's exciting. I've gotten, very, very good reviews so far on my script sort of in-house. So, let's see what we can do to make it look like that on the screen.
All right, sounds good. Listen, everybody out there all across the land, you're listening to the Keith Harris Show, and we have been talking to writer, producer, and actor Charles Agron. Everybody, listen, make sure you pay attention to his work. I'll be keeping you posted on what's coming up, what he has planned in the future. Also, you can check him out. I think you said Twitter, C Agron Producer, right, Charles?
Correct.
Okay.
Exactly. And then our web portal is going to be up in early July, so we'll make it real easy for everyone.
All right, sounds good. And listen, consider this home, Charles. We love to have you back. Later on down the line, so we can find out what's going on. And look, we're looking forward to it. So listen, keep doing your thing, bro, and we'll be talking to you soon.
I appreciate it, Keith. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, talk to you soon.
Talk to you. Everyone out there all across the land, that was Charles Agron, writer, producer, and actor. And listen, wonderful attitude, intelligent gentleman. There's no confusion as to why he is where he is today. Sometimes, with people in the industry, you ask that question. Well, okay, what's his angle or what's that about? But we really see that Charles is a genuine person, and he continues to bring us great work. And we look forward to more in the future. So big shouts out to him. Also, don't forget that the full conversation between Charles Agron and myself, Keith Harris, will be posted on social media shortly. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.